Hi everyone, I'm Jan, and today I'm going to teach you guys about the figures of speech, allegory, and analogy. First off, allegory. The definition from the dictionary. An allegory is a story in which the character's image and/or events function as symbols. These symbols can be interpreted to have deeper significance and may illustrate moral truths or a political or historical situation. In other words, this means a story that points to a deeper meaning, idea, or concept. A deeper meaning can be thought as the moral of the story. The purpose of an allegory. It helps the reader understand a deeper concept, and it makes your writing more interesting. Allegories versus metaphor. The difference and similarities. Allegory is the moral of the story. It's the deeper meaning, and it teaches a lesson, proves a point, and is the whole story. A metaphor is the comparison, it's a short sentence, and it makes a point. They both point to a deeper meaning, and it's two unrelated things. An allegory is an extended metaphor. Examples of allegory in literature. There is an allegory in the book Animal Farm that we will read this year in class. In this farm fable, the animal runs society that divides into faction and mirrors the rise of Leon Trotsky and the Russian Revolution. This is an allegory that points to a deeper political message. Example of an allegory in a movie. In the movie WALL-E, there's a good example of allegory. The main character teaches the viewer the importance of protecting the earth. The whole movie is about WALL-E trying to save Earth with his friend Eve. In this movie, they don't say it's because of pollution done by humans. Analogy. The importance of analogy. Analogy plays a significant role in problem solving as well as decision making, argumentation, perception, generalization, memory, creativity, invention, prediction, emotion, explanation, conceptualization, and communication. Definitions from the dictionary. A comparison of two otherwise unlike things based on a resemblance of a particular. In other words, this means a comparison between two different things to clarify something. When you use two different words to tell the reader something. Analogy versus metaphor. The similarities between those two. Metaphor is saying something is something else, and the analogy is saying something is like something else to make some sort of explanatory point. Difference between analogy and metaphor. Analogy is a type of argument, more complicated, lengthy, points out similarities between two things, and a metaphor is directly stating the comparison. Analogy is more complicated and lengthy, two completely different things. A metaphor is directly states the comparison and is referring to something else. They both are a comparison of two things. Types of analogy. The opposite analogy, when two subjects are opposite in terms of meaning. Object and group analogy, when several objects together makes a group. Object and related object analogy, when the two objects are related objects. Object and classification analogy, multiple objects comparing each other. Cause and effect analogy, when one is the cause and the other one is the consequences of the cause. Problem and solution analogy, when each problem has a solution. Performer and action analogy, when both performer and action are mentioned. Effort and result analogy, when one word represents the effort and the other one represent the result. Example of all those analogy. The opposite analogy, crying and laughing. Crying is the opposite of laughing. Object and group analogy, one object is a wolf and the whole group is the wolf pack. Object and related object, one object is a plant and the related object is the seed. Object and classification, the object is color and the classification of green is a color. Cause and effect analogy, the cause is fire and the effect is burning. Problem and solution analogy, the problem is you're tired, the solution is to go sleep. Performer and action analogy, the teacher, he teaches the lessons. and effort and result analogy, the effort is the right and the result is the letter. Thank you for listening, and I hope you know how to use and the definitions of allegory and analogy.